convinced that we need revival. We need a great moving of God's Spirit. We need an outpouring of God's Spirit. The Bible says in Revelation chapter 2 that there was a church. It was a good church, a good, solid, Bible-believing church. They stood for the truth. It was the church at Ephesus. And this church had even suffered a lot. But this church had left its first love. And God said, I have this one thing against you, that you have left your first love. And I think that in the Western world especially, that we have left our first love. We who have had historical Christianity, who've had great movements of God's Spirit, who've had reformations in which entire culture was changed, we've lost that. And we need to return because we've lost our first love. I was in a place in Norilsk, Siberia, and this place was an amazing place where we saw God move in a mighty way. In fact, this city had been built by slave labor, and people had suffered for their faith because of Christ and sent to Siberian prison camps, and many died there for their faith in Jesus Christ. And this place that had been so just desolate spiritually, God moved and worked. I preached in the stadium. 2 churches were birthed out of that meeting, and God moved and sent a mighty revival. But after the meeting was over, we were having a victory celebration in a restaurant, and we were eating, and there was a couple who came in, and the man was from Western Europe, and the lady was an interpreter for him, a Russian lady. And they came in, sat down, we began talking with them, sharing the gospel with them. The man was not interested at all. He had no desire to hear anything about God, about Jesus, about anything. And yet this young lady who grew up in Russia, who had been taught all of her life that there is no God, who grew up in this city where Christians were persecuted, she wanted to know more. She said, I've been taught all my life there is no God, but I want to know, is there a God? Could you tell me more? And she was so hungry. And I thought to myself, how could this happen? How could this happen? How could it be that in the Western world, we have people who don't care at all, and yet they're in a country where atheism had been taught for generations? There was a hunger. I think the problem boils down to this. We have left our first love. Now it's easy for us to say, yeah, I know those people over there. They left their first love. But let me ask you a question. Have you left your first love? Has there been a time in your life when you loved Jesus more than you love Him now, when you were more passionate for Him than you are now? Perhaps we need to be like the church of Ephesus and hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people, to return to our first love.